We come across all sorts of impressions that people have about India, inside the country and outside. Most of the times it never matters what someone thinks of the country, so long as they don't hold the power to impose their opinion on thousands of others and make it a reality, right? Well, so let's talk about what one such institution, one of the most powerful in the world for that matter, thinks of India and has declared the same for the rest of the world to hold the prejudice. Thomson Reuters Foundation, as most of you would know, is amongst the biggest institutions that rule world media. This media company based in Canada is comparatively nearly 200 times bigger than any Indian media in terms of turnover, and recently published a report that listed the most dangerous countries for women. India, acing the top spot in the list, sure led to some eyebrow raisings. For war-torn countries such as Syria, Somalia, Afghanistan and Saudi Arabia succeeded India in the list. Sure, our patriotic spirits limit us from accepting this report, at least for most of us, but for once let us analyze the actual reasons why this report can be directed right towards, well, the trash can. Let's make few very basic observations before we move on to the statistics. First of all, this report is based on an expert perception poll and not on empirical survey, which means that there is hardly any statistical backup for the claims, but we will move on to that next. For now, have a look at this video published at the official TRF page on Twitter. If you notice the one-liners on the video describing the plight of women in the respective countries, just that is sufficient to comprehend the ridiculousness of this report. Let's say, for example, Pakistan standing at 6th place comes with the tag 1 of 3 women abused by husbands, which accounts to 33.3% of women aged 16 to 64 are subjected to domestic violence. 98% of women cut under the crime of female genital mutilation in Somalia, which stands in 4th position. Rape used as a weapon of war by the regime, by which they mean the government itself, in war-torn Syria, which funnily enough stands in 3rd place. And India, which apparently is worse than all these countries, is described using rape epidemic means women live in fear. No 98% like stats, no evidence pointing on the government for raping citizens as a part of war, or no instances of execution for not wearing, let's say, a particular type of attire. Just the perception that women live in fear is enough for Thomson Reuters Foundation to thrust India to the first place. Yes, we are making a claim that the TRF report might as well be a propaganda against India. Because let alone the perceptions we talked about now, let's talk hard data. TRF makes a number of claims against India, such as traditions and cultures leading to women's harassment in the country. Now there are two types of violence against women we can chalk out here: quantifiable and non-quantifiable. We'll talk about the first category, but when it comes to non-quantifiable crimes, the authenticity of experts speaking for TRF becomes zero, and that perception simply can be ruled out. That is because no expert amongst the 548 ones used in the survey have access to strategically analyze the plight of women caused by traditional and cultural norms or resultant healthcare or safety measures in the country. It was not a survey, it was just perceptions that don't hold without first-hand experiences or observations. And here is why even the quantifiable crimes don't validate this report. We're using the work of Dr. Dunkin Jalki, an expert from CIRHS who has demystified the validity of this data. Now I quote TRF, Women and girls in India face the biggest threat from traffickers because they are still widely considered to be sexual objects and second-class citizens, campaigners said. About 2/3 of the 15,000 trafficking cases registered in India by 2016 involved female victims. Nearly half were under 18, with most sold into sex work or domestic servitude. Now this claim seems to be very straightforward, but it is hiding more than it is revealing. Take the claims about trafficking cases first. The National Crime Records Bureau Crime Report for 2016 mentions 8,132 cases of human trafficking registered in India, while victims trafficked are 15,379. Out of the latter, those below 18 years are 9,034, out of which 4,911 were girls. Contrast this now with the figures from the United States of America for the same period. 8,042 cases of human trafficking were registered, out of which female victims were 7,128. If you haven't got the enormity of the contrast yet, let me tell you that the population of USA is over 4 times lower than that of India. 32.21 crores versus 132.68 crores in 2016. So whose women were trafficked more? If the numbers don't hold, why does Reuters think that women and girls face the biggest threat from traffickers in India and not any other country? Look what it says further. They are still widely considered to be sexual objects and second-class citizens here. One of the experts also clarifies, trafficking is a global issue, but of all the victims, those from Southeast Asia, mainly India, are the most vulnerable. Girls continue to be seen as burden on parents, inferior to boys. So now, statistics don't hold, so go with an age-old prejudice about India stating girls have always been inferior to boys here to make an international claim. Great. Here, consider another claim from another article on Reuters website. Nearly 40,000 rapes were reported in 2016, despite a greater focus on women's safety after the fatal gang rape of a student in New Delhi in 2012. That sparked nationwide protests and led to tougher laws against sexual abuse. But the figures are just the tip of the iceberg. These numbers are correct. They are indeed taken from NCRB data for 2016. We do not deny the fact that India has issues with regard to women's safety. However, since Reuters forgot to compare this data with any of the other countries, let's do it ourselves. Here are rape figures from the 3 developed countries. 84,041 rapes in 2014 in the US as per FBI data, 35,700 rapes in England and Wales, and 12,900 in France in 2015 as per Eurostat data. As always, the numbers are worse than India if we consider the population of these countries, which is clearly much lower than India. So what is TRF basing their claims on? And there is more. Here is a claim that was central to Reuters' 2011 poll, where India was ranked the 4th dangerous country for women in the world. Female feticide, child marriage and high levels of trafficking and domestic servitude make the world's largest democracy the 4th most dangerous place for women, the poll showed. 44.5% of girls are married before the age of 18. It is not clear how to understand the claim about 44.5% or where it comes from. For, according to the India Human Development Survey 2, women in India married before the age of 18 in 20 to 24 years age group was 36.2% in 2011 and 12. However, the 2011 census of India reports that the percentage of females who got effectively married before reaching 18 years of age is 3.7 at the national level. There are different sources citing different data about child marriage in India, but none of them claims 44.5%. So where did Reuters get this data from? Are they just choosing random numbers that suit its narrative? Anyway, the problem is not merely related to the arbitrary selection of numbers or their inflation. The problem is also that, as UNICEF notes, child marriage is a violation of child rights and has negative impact on physical growth, health, mental and emotional development and education opportunities. Most of these negative impacts are connected to the observation that an early marriage leads to early motherhood, which brings along several responsibilities and workload at a tender age. For marriage in itself cannot result in health issues or decrease in educational opportunities. Then why don't they talk about early pregnancy instead of child marriage? Here is why. If we consider the World Bank data about teenage pregnancies per 1000 women aged 15 to 19 for 2010 and 11, some rather surprising numbers come to the fore. India 33 per 1000 women, United Kingdom 19 and United States 30. Are these 3%, that is 30 for 1000, American adolescent mothers also victims of child marriage? Why don't we talk in terms of violation of child rights in the context of teenage pregnancy instead of child marriage? Maybe because the number of child marriages are comparatively higher in India and it can be used to fit the propaganda. It's just easier to name child marriages responsible for children's rights violation. So to conclude, the idea that the TRF report seems to advocate, in the clear absence of statistical data to validate its claims, is that India is a country of absurd cultures and traditions that are making life hell for women. Its claims, such as inferior position of women and traditional practices, clearly indicate what it is pointing at, shamelessly with no evidence to put forth. I think we've had enough of pointless claims raising fingers at Indian culture and traditions. So before accepting a report made even by one of the biggest media firms in the world, make sure you study it a little and then make judgments. Go through the questions posed by TRF to the experts to arrive at this result and try answering themselves as an insider. Then compare how non-Indian experts would have answered them based on claims they come across on mass media. Then you'll probably see what the problem was. Before we end, we are making it very clear that we do not whatsoever deny the existence of serious women's issues in India. The purpose of this video was to put forward that the TRF report cannot hold and India cannot be the most dangerous country for women of all. And if you have counter arguments for this video, make sure you approach us on any social media platform with reliable data and not prejudiced arguments. We will be open to receiving valid counter arguments and study or discuss this further. But for now, the TRF report can find its way to the dustbin. Thank you for watching.